Welcome to Two Guys on a Porch. I'm Jason. This is Bradford. And as always, we have my hunting dog, Kim, with us today. Here we are on a new edition of Two Guys on a Porch on this cold Middle Tennessee day, but the cold doesn't stop us from being out on our porch with our friends, enjoying a good fellowship stick, and a glass filled with the flavor of friendship. What are we drinking today, Bradford?
Well, thanks. We're going to have a couple of really traditional whiskeys today to really speak to the topic, which is traditions. We're in the midst of holiday season, and whether it's holidays or birthdays or anniversaries, it reminds us all of traditions, and we're going to talk about that. So we've got Old Granddad, because it makes you think of what would your old granddad's traditions be. And then we've got Evan Williams. I think it's the third most popular whiskey in the world. It's a Heaven Hill product that's been around since 1957. So certainly a traditional product. And we're smoking Arturo Fuente Hemingway series. These are from our friends at Mission Cigar and Social in Franklin and Spring Hill.
Thank you, Monty.
Absolutely. And we're going to get Monty on as a guest at some point. He's got a great story. He's a great guy and does a great job kind of building the same kind of fellowship in his shops that we're trying to do here. And Jason, I wouldn't get out here in this cold weather by myself. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be back on a porch when you've had a hard week at work, as I had this week. It's good to be back on the porch. It's good to sit down with friends. We hope you at home are doing the same thing. You gather around, guys. We need something to do to talk to each other, right? We can't just sit down and talk like typically women do that, no problem. Guys, we need a little push, a little help. We need a good fellowship stick, a good glass of something, and it helps bring about the fellowship.
So you've been busy for a little while now. Is this pretty typical of you? Fourth quarter of the year, you're slammed?
Yeah, fourth quarter. I mean, I think most physicians are. It's this whole silly system of your deductible, insurance deductible. It changes over January 1, and nowadays most insurance plans will have a high deductible. I mean, thousands of dollars,
right.
$5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So if they have whatever procedure done on December 31st, it's free because they met their deductible. Done on January 1st, it costs them $5,000.
Yeah.
So this has been, so you as a doctor, you're going to take care of patients, and it means something to them. So you try to take care of them as best you can within, before it changes over, and it makes for a very busy time. And of course, then the emergencies still come in, and so you have a full schedule, and then the brain tumor comes in after that.
So one of your family's traditions is, Dad's working.
Yeah. Yeah. So, jumping right into tradition. So if I'm not on call that weekend, one of our family traditions is I make Saturday morning breakfast. It's a time that I know that I will not be working. And so, and my wife likes to sleep in. And she likes food being prepared for her. And so, I'll make Saturday morning breakfast. Nothing fancy, just bacon and eggs. Kids like cinnamon rolls and some biscuits, of course. We're Southern, so we got to have biscuits. I make breakfast. I also take the opportunity to talk to the kids. The kids help me make breakfast. And, now that they're kind of doing their own thing and they're, college, med school, residency, and that type of thing, they're not necessarily at home. But when they were younger, there was a time for me to talk to them about, hey, what's going on with your life? Where you want to go to college? The world is your oyster, is the saying I used to say to them, because when they're in junior high, you don't have that perspective on life. That hey, you can go out and do stuff. Dream a little bit. Where would you like to go to college? So that was a family tradition for us. Thank you, sir.
So what constitutes a tradition? Like, how long do you have to do something before you can say, this is a tradition?
I think just a season. I mean,
really?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't take much to establish a tradition. It doesn't have to be a decade long. I bet if, even it might be a fall tradition, like, I don't know, Friday nights, we always go to the football game or something like that. That's not a family tradition for us, but a lot of people is. Some people love going to high school football games, even though their kids have graduated from that particular high school. They still, especially in the smaller towns, that's their thing. Friday night, let's go to the local high school game because that's what we did all those years when the kids were in school.
Yeah, I think to that point, my wife and I, unintentionally, but it was a cool thing, we established a tradition of sitting on our front porch after the Friday night game because we would get home before any of our kids did. We had one in the band, I had a son playing ball, and we would wait for them to come home, and usually with friends, and we would have a chance to greet them. We're usually sitting out there with a cocktail, me with a bourbon, and that became a tradition for the 4 years my son played football, and then my stepson, who was behind him, same thing. He didn't play ball, but he was the student section leader, and he would bring his friends over. So for about 8 years, that's what we did. And even now, we don't necessarily go to the games, but we love sitting out there on a Friday night. Now, it's a little bit, sad almost that we know the kids aren't coming home. They're off on their own or at college. But it's a tradition that we keep up because we enjoy it.
Yeah, I can relate to that. My daughters cheered, and I would cover the football game. Cover game, medical coverage. Help out if somebody got hurt. We always went to Waffle House after the game, or Waffle Home as we refer to it. But yeah, so we go to the local Waffle House and have a little something to eat, and then go back home. So yeah.
So, in thinking about that, let's try one of these whiskeys. This is the Old Granddad.
Yeah. So this is not bad. It's not special, but I already know you are not going to like it because this is a high rye.
Yeah, this is 27% rye, and I had this before and didn't like it, and kind of categorized it as bad whiskey.
But I would tell you, so you can taste the rye. Not much of a nose. Maybe that nose is affected on this cold porch day. But I would tell you that rye, it brings a little, that spice is appreciated on this cold porch
Well,
day.
that was my ignorance that said it was bad, and I didn't know the mash bill and should have had enough sense to realize it simply wasn't my taste. Now, it is a higher proof. I don't know that they've done a great job at 114, getting complexity of flavors and that type of thing. But it was the rye that I objected to, not the whiskey itself. So I think it's fine whiskey if you like a higher rye.
And speaking of traditions, there's some buddies of mine who have been drinking Old Granddad for decades, and this is their traditional go-to. So this is why we picked this. This is one of their favorites, and I think that we've talked about this before. In marketing whiskeys or bourbons, a label goes a long way because there's lots of choices out there, and you're there at the store and you're trying to figure out what to get, and that kind of book cover judgment. Looking at the label, and it's like, oh, Granddad. I mean, it engenders certain memories. Oh yeah, I remember Granddad drinking something. I wonder what he drank. I don't know, but oh look, there's Old Granddad there, so I'll try that.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, here we are celebrating the 92nd birthday. My math may be off, of the repeal of Prohibition in December of 33. This was one of the few labels that was being manufactured during Prohibition. It was owned by the American Spirits Company. They had American Medicinal Spirits Company.
Yep.
They had a license to make whiskey, bourbon, during Prohibition, and this was one of those labels. It was bought by National Distillers in 1929 and remained with them until its purchase by effectively Buffalo Trace, Sazerac. So it's only changed hands in the 3 times of its entire existence of more than 100 years. So,
and that's very unusual for nowadays because they switch. They're so inbred. It seems they go back and forth. So Prohibition, again, as a reminder, it was from January 1920 to December 1933.
Yeah.
So that was 13 years that's a long time for if you're in the bourbon business or whiskey business to survive. That was a quite 13 years to survive.
Yeah, I think the legacy is it probably gave rise to the American mafia more than anything
Yeah,
with
yeah.
bootlegging whiskey.
Yeah, especially we talked a little bit about this before, but that whole period is very interesting. We don't get many constitutional amendments nowadays. We get none nowadays. But part of that process, it has to be ratified by the states. And so, for instance, Maryland ratified it, but part of it was two other states, Connecticut and Delaware, did not ratify it. Maryland took in the 18th Amendment, the Prohibition Amendment. Part of it was saying, part of that in the amendment, it's enforced by both national and state government. Well, Maryland took the approach of not enforcing it. They did not pass any state laws to enforce prohibition. So Maryland was a wet state. That's why all the illegal bootlegging came out of, or not a lot, all of it, but a good portion of it came out of Maryland.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. Some of the national traditions that we have, we recently saw the president pardon the Thanksgiving turkeys.
Yep.
That went back to their home at the Prestige Center in North Carolina State. Prestige was a large hog company as well that I used to work with.
Oh, really?
Back in the day, yeah. My sister knows the Prestige family well. So it was good to see those turkeys get a reprieve to go home to the university.
Yeah.
But what we consider a tradition with regard to the president pardoning turkeys has only been official since George Bush 41 back in the late 80s. Reagan did it.
H.W. Bush, yeah.
Yeah, Reagan had done it. Kennedy had done it. But prior to that, it was not a thought for people. But
Yeah.
the tradition of Thanksgiving has only been around in America, and it's a distinctly American holiday since Abraham Lincoln. So in the 1860s. And so we think, oh, these traditions that last so long, and America's a relatively young country, so we're only talking about a tradition that's been around for 160 plus years.
Yeah.
So I don't get really bent out of shape when something ends or changes, because I don't want to put so much attachment on the loss of something. I don't want to be so committed to a tradition that it impacts the event itself.
I would agree with that. But traditions are nice because they have reinforcements. Continuing with your Thanksgiving analogy, is that it's we as a nation have been blessed so much. It's good to pause and give thanks. It's my favorite holiday.
Is it really?
Yeah, absolutely. I
didn't realize that.
By far, because we've just been blessed so much. It just a stop and give thanks. It's more, at least in our family, it's more of a family holiday than anything else.
Really? More so than Christmas.
Yeah, well, the problem with Christmas, love Christmas. The problem is that it's so much attention on the gift giving, right? I mean, it's what's underneath the tree, and we have great Christmas traditions, but Thanksgiving is more coming around a table and and pigging out, right? But I think this is a personal opinion. I think most of the world's problems, and certainly family problems, can be figured out over a meal. And I think that's one tradition why we do breakfast, or traditionally in America, having dinner at home every night. With my job, we couldn't really do that, but I think having a meal at night is good for the family to come together, have dinner together, and so little problems get resolved before they become a big problem.
Yeah, and you see Thanksgiving's a great example of traditional recipes passed down generation to generation. And I think that's cool to see. But I've seen people get so bent out of shape about not being able to carry a particular tradition, or someone who's always been there who's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Kids are the great example, I think, of we've always done this as a family. Well, the dynamics of families change. People move.
People
die. They
die.
grow up and get jobs. That's right.
Yeah.
They die and they're not with you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's, having friends, they've lost a spouse or a parent, having that first holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving are generally the big holidays. To have that holiday without that loved one is pretty tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even worse still, I think losing a child. So I think, or I would guess, that people having a pushback from not doing the traditional thing is more of a statement of remembering the past and wanting to go back to the past and keep the past the way it always was, because it's such good memories. I know personally, my kids, they're 19 to 27 now. I would have them all still in footy pajamas running down to the Christmas tree. The Christmas tradition we still do that's reminiscent of that is when they were little kids, they on Christmas Eve night, they would all sleep in the same room because we didn't want any of the kids sneaking down early to the Christmas tree and peeking or whatever, and we wanted them to all come down at the same time. So still now, like this year, last year, they're young adults essentially. They will still sleep in the same room.
Really?
And, yes, and they come down the stairs together to the Christmas. No, minus the footy pajamas.
Now that might change when your daughters get married.
Yeah, I think but you know what? I might stomp my feet and okay, spouses, y'all go away. Y'all don't count.
You're not making them wear footy pajamas when they do.
No, I acquiesced on that. I did acquiesce on one Christmas tradition is, like I just said, I really love Thanksgiving. So my rule, even though I love Christmas, was that we don't start Christmas and Christmas decorations until after Thanksgiving.
We're the same way.
The problem is now, the kids they're off at school, they're off in residency, they're doing their thing, right? So we would decorate the Christmas tree together because they were at home, but do that after Thanksgiving. Now, like this past Thanksgiving, we only had Thanksgiving Day in common.
Oh.
And so we had, like one of my daughters had to work on Friday after Thanksgiving. So she had to take off. So we actually decorated the Christmas tree on Thanksgiving morning this year.
Oh,
we had
okay.
it delivered on Tuesday before Thanksgiving and then decorated Thanksgiving Day. So I think to your point, that's not traditional, but you're modifying with time.
Well, I think your flexibility really speaks to the healthy approach, right? If my thing is if you hold so fast to tradition that it ruins the event for you or others, then that wasn't worth it. I think the value in traditions are what you illustrated before, holding on to certain values and cohesiveness of family, that type of thing. But everything in moderation, right?
Yeah.
I think alcohol in moderation. Those types of events becoming too attached, you have to moderate that so that you can continue to enjoy the event as it's presented to you.
Yeah. Speaking of moderation, do you have any Coke to go with this Evan Williams? Yeah, it's.
This is my mother-in-law's favorite whiskey. It's because this was what we give her.
So
it's
Evan
cheap.
Williams did not have their medicinal label back during Prohibition, but this is medicinal. It's nothing wrong with it. It's bourbon.
Yeah, to me, it is fine whiskey, right? I don't think there's anything objectionable about it. One thing that I do think is interesting, it's 86 proof.
Yeah.
Which is what Scotch is.
Yeah.
All Scotches, almost without fail, are 86 proof. And generally, when you see these cheaper labels, Jack Daniels, their standard offering, is 80 proof.
You're right.
Jim Beam, 80 proof.
Well, it has to be at least 80 proof
That's
to be
right.
qualified as bourbon. Bottled at least 80 proof.
And, from a company perspective, they can maximize profits with a little more water in there,
Yeah,
offering
exactly.
at 80. So this is 86. So it has a little better profile than it certainly would at 80. But, in terms of value, not bad. This is a large bottle. This is the 1.5 liter, and it is $25 for this bottle.
Well, and as you said, it's the third most popular bourbon or thereabout.
Yeah.
And so who am I to go against popularity? I guess they know what to expect. It's it's the same thing every time. You know what to expect. That's the philosophy of franchise fast food. You know, if you
That's
go to
right.
a Wendy's or a McDonald's, you know, it can be in Tennessee, it can be in California. You know what you're going to get there. And so there is some comfort in that.
Yeah, and for me, I certainly like this better than that old granddad. If for nothing else, it doesn't have the rye.
Yeah. So, and on this cold Tennessee
I mean, it
day,
does have rye, but it's not a high rye.
right? Yeah. This is the
10%.
standard. Yeah. This is the standard mash bill.
Yeah.
This mash bill is your, you know, your 10 to 15% rye. It's like right there at 12, 13% rye. Then malted barley, and of course, the majority in corn, 78% corn, somewhere in there. Wild Turkey, you know, has the same mash bill. It's the standard bourbon mash bill, traditional mash bill of a bourbon.
Right.
It's not aged as long. Its proof is not as high as you just mentioned, and so that's why it's bland. I mean, it's not bad, but it's unremarkable, which is good. It's your go-to bourbon if you just want something nice and easy to sip on. Not bad.
You know, speaking of traditions, one thing I think about is, you know, you have certain foods at Thanksgiving and those types of things. One of our odd traditions in our family is at Thanksgiving, we have my wife's ex-husband and his family join us for Thanksgiving.
Wow, that speaks highly of you guys.
We've been doing that for years.
Wow.
And granted, we couldn't do this if we didn't get along. If there were, you know, animus between the families, that would be a problem. But we do it for our kids.
Yeah.
They don't have to sit around and go, well, we've got to go to Dad's for his Thanksgiving dinner. They live 5 minutes from us. Why not just combine it?
Sure.
And it just makes life a lot easier on everybody.
Yeah. So growing up, my mom's side of the family lived in rural Tennessee, and we would go up to, my grandmother lived up there, Ripley, Tennessee, small town, West Tennessee, and we would do holiday dinners there. That tradition doesn't happen anymore because the family's scattered, and I miss that. I would love
Yeah.
to see my cousins that I grew up with. I really don't see them much anymore, and I
Yeah.
miss that. So hats off to you guys.
Yeah, and that tradition will end. You know, the kids are going to move on and do their own thing. And you know, I think her ex-husband may move. And so that'll end that. But for the time, it's been a great tradition.
So my Fuente Hemingway here is not burning very evenly. Maybe if I complain about it on the show here, maybe Fuente will send us some free cigars
wouldn't
or
that be
something like
great?
that. But yeah,
It sounds like user error to me, though, Jason.
it probably is, but I'm going to go with it's, you know, a good carpenter never blames his own tools, but I'm going to blame my tools in this case, hoping to ingratiate Fuente to us. But it's not burning very evenly today. The Hemingway, it's tapered, so it burns. It's supposed to burn more evenly. I probably lit it poorly, but it's burning funky on me. Tastes great though. It's a
Yeah,
good-
and mine's just as perfect as it can be. So,
you're just better than me.
well, that could be. I'm not going to argue the point. Jason, back to traditions, because we've talked about Thanksgiving and Christmas, and here
Yep.
we are in December. This will be released well after Christmas. But, you know, we think about Valentine's and birthdays and anniversaries. And I would contend that anniversaries, as well as birthdays, may be the easier traditions to keep because of its longevity. To your point about you don't see your cousins, you're not going to your grandmother's.
Yeah.
Well, you've been married to your wife for
32 years.
decades at this point. There's more likely to be traditions that can be upheld if it's just the two of you guys, as opposed to family traditions.
That makes logical sense, but you know, truth be told, our birthdays, like, you know, my birthday this year falls on a Friday. I'll work on the whole day. I won't do anything that day.
On your birthday.
On my birthday, won't really do anything traditional on that weekend. We'll probably go out, but we don't really do a whole lot for birthdays. I mean, we for the kids we do more than for Emily and I, but birthdays we don't have a lot of traditions. You know, Christmas we do a lot of stuff. Anniversary, I'll take my wife out to dinner. I think our traditions have been more family motivated. For Christmas Eve, um, I do my Christmas shopping for Emily, my wife. And you know that, but our listeners don't. Emily's my wife. I'll do her Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve. It's not that I've forgotten about her. It's just my tradition of doing that. And one of my daughters will come with me, and we go to downtown Franklin. We go to Walton's Jewelry. Shout out to Julie down there. She'll take care of you. We go to Walton's Jewelry. Usually, Julie's able to find us something nice for my wife, but I spend the whole day shopping.
And they carry estate pieces.
Yeah, estate pieces.
Right.
There, it's a great place. Going down to downtown Franklin, you walk around there. We can go to the coffee shop down there. My daughter and I make a family tradition of that. That's a special time for Lily and I to go and shop together, and just it's our tradition. But when it comes to birthdays, we don't have a lot of traditions. Anniversary, certainly we celebrate our marriage.
Do you have a traditional birthday cake or dessert that you have?
No, we have a birthday hat. We make the kids wear a special hat. It's just this funky. It's this typical triangle hat, but it's all fancied up. So
I'll tell you, holidays, birthdays have always been challenging for me from a marriage family standpoint, because my parents did not attach really any sentiment to them,
yeah,
or activity to them. They grew up in the Depression,
yeah,
and they felt like it was frivolous. So in general, they didn't go out to eat. That didn't change if it was somebody's birthday or their anniversary.
yeah.
They never exchanged gifts at Christmas, anniversary.
Wow.
It just didn't make sense to them.
Yeah.
They weren't opposed, but in their mind's eye, it was just kind of a frivolous thing to do. And as a result, we didn't really grow up with putting much attention to that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so
Did you do something else to promote family or togetherness, or
not really. So as a result, I've been challenged by, oh, your wife's birthday is coming up, and I'm not particularly thoughtful, so it's more of a, what would you like? And then I'll get that. But it's hard for me to go find something and think about what would she enjoy. Now, our tradition for anniversary, we do something for the house.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that has become, rather than exchange something with each other, it's we do something to the house. We'll paint a room we've been talking about, or get a piece of furniture that we've been talking about. So that has become more of that tradition, and it's been great.
Yeah. I think the best traditions are the family things. The gift giving and Christmas, it becomes a distraction. Other holidays, Valentine's Day, I'll get flowers for my wife, but it's more, Sunday night. Again, for whatever reason, our family traditions center around food. But like Sunday night, I'll go to the grocery store. I'll buy a steak or fish or salmon, whatever I'm going to grill that night. But my tradition is we grill on Sunday nights if we're at home, and I'll buy flowers from my wife, grocery store flowers. Nothing expensive, but it's just that little thing. But come Valentine's Day, I'll get her a box of chocolates, traditional, and get her some flowers, but we don't do a big Valentine's Day thing. Anniversary, occasionally we'll travel somewhere, but it's more just more at home.
It's funny you bring that up, the box of chocolates. The history nut in me immediately went to, when did that become a tradition? Why are chocolates a tradition? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's a marketing, I'm sure.
Well, and interestingly enough, milk chocolate didn't exist until the late 1880s, early 1890s. Nestle was the first inventor of milk chocolate. Dark chocolate existed for centuries because, the cocoa nib, the bean, they could have that. But milk chocolate didn't exist at all. It's much sweeter. Some people really like dark. And so that tradition had to have started well after that point, and I don't know when it would have started.
it makes me think of the traditional engagement ring, diamonds.
Oh,
The
great point.
beers, did a wonderful job of marketing. First of all, they got a monopoly on diamonds,
Yes.
and they limited the supply of diamonds because they were harvesting them all, mining them all, and then somehow through marketing campaigns, the diamond is forever, and so that's got to be because your marriage is going to be forever. I.e., you need to give a ring with a diamond in it. It represents your marriage, and what a great marketing scheme. But most engagement rings are now diamond rings.
That's true. That's a great point. Well, and the real point of this, traditions are great. They have value. I think if the focus is on family, it's great. And as we said, everything in moderation, and don't get so attached that it ruins it.
Yeah.
And it's great sitting here on the porch talking about these, experiencing some traditional whiskeys.
Indeed. I think, to add to your point, I think it's not the tradition itself, it's the meaning behind that tradition that really brings it home. It's your tradition could be basket weaving on the porch. It's doing it with family or doing it somehow that makes it meaningful. I know here on this porch today, between our two glasses filled with the flavor of friendship, I stuttered that as usual, but this flavor of friendship in the old granddad, the spice of that rye, I think this really warms it. I think if you're in a cold situation, go with a rye bourbon.
Yeah, and people would not disagree with that. I hope we've been able to establish a tradition for our listeners by joining us on the porch every episode that we release. And thank you for joining us today, Two Guys on a Porch.
Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that like button. We need you to support us because we want to continue to be here on the porch. Like and subscribe, and be sure to comment. We'd like to hear what your traditions are. Give us a shout out at Two Guys on a Porch. Cheers.
Please like and subscribe, rate, all the stuff you do on all the social media platforms. Thanks, guys.
Let us know what your drink and cigar of choice is at TwoGuysOnAPorch.com, and you'll be entered into a drawing to get some Two Guys on a Porch swag